Please help me. I'm Amanda Berry.
Saved us. You saved us. You know, I'm Michelle Knight. She said Georgina de Jesus.
We found them. We found them.
They say that you never know how truly strong you are until being strong is the only option that you have left. God, do I know that. But for Michelle Knight, Amanda Berry, and Gina De Jesus, no truer statement has ever been uttered. For more than a decade, these girls lived through unspeakable torture and hell at the hands of deranged school bus driver Ariel Castro. I've actually been fascinated with this story and the courage that these girls portrayed for years. And they were really babies, basically. They were babies when this whole thing happened. And I finally decided to do a really deep dive into this story. If for nothing else, just to remind all of us that we should never give up hope, and it's not over until it's over. Hi guys, welcome back. Thank you so much for being here. It's so greatly appreciated. It truly, truly is. Before I get started, let me give you my usual disclaimer. This video is for educational purposes only. Please do not take what I say as fact. Please always do your own research and come to your own conclusions. Next, if you have not liked, subscribed, or commented yet, please consider doing so because it really helps me out and I really, really appreciate it. So, Ariel Castro was born in Puerto Rico on July 10th, 1960, which is my birthday. Not the year, though. Not the year. Yeah, I didn't actually know that, and I'm really annoyed I have to share a birthday with this fucking scumbag. He was raised by his grandmother, and it has been alleged that when he was 5 years old, he suffered SA by an older boy. But because this was never reported to authorities, no consequences were ever faced by the alleged perpetrator. At the age of 10, Ariel and his family moved to Cleveland, Ohio, where multiple family members had already lived prior. And it's there that he learned to play the guitar from his uncle when he was still a teenager, and he would continue to use these skills long into adulthood, becoming a bass player in a salsa band. In the 1980s, he moved across the street from the family of Grimilda Figuera. Ariel and Grimilda would begin dating in 1992, and they would purchase their home on 2207 Seymour Avenue. Living there with their 4 children, Emily, Arlene, Angie, and Anthony. Or at least their 4 children, because there are other children. But things at the Castro home were anything but normal. Grimilda suffered horrific injuries at the hands of Ariel Castro. Some that would mirror the injuries inflicted on mainly Michelle Knight during her 11 years in captivity. Castro actually had a very long history of DV towards his wife. Grimilda went to the police at least 3 times over Castro putting his hands on her. Once in 1989, where Castro pleaded no contest and was given 1-year probation. On December 26, 1993, Castro came home drunk and he began hitting her. He threw her to the ground, he hit her in the face and the head, and he kicked her. The case would end up getting dropped by a grand jury after Figuera said that she couldn't remember the ABUSC, which I think pretty much equates to I'm scared to testify. Castro would demand to know everything that she did. He has been accused of hitting her relentlessly, pushing her downstairs, fracturing ribs, breaking her nose several times, cracking a tooth, dislocating both of her shoulders, and shoving her in a cardboard box. He would constantly threatened to unalive her and her children, and Ariel, whose parenting rights have been stripped from him, even had the balls to take the children and keep them from their mom, who was awarded full custody. He would cut off Figuera and the kids from friends and family, wouldn't allow her to use the telephone, and after he would warn her not to leave the home, he would test her to see if she listened. Figuera's last complaint was in 2005, long after she had left Castro. She had moved in with a new boyfriend by the name of Colin. She had moved to Indiana, and this was actually 2 years after he had already taken Michelle Knight and 1 year after Amanda Berry. Two of the couple's daughters claimed that Colin had touched them inappropriately, something that both Colin and Figuera deny. But based on the testimony of the two daughters, in September of 2005, the judge would sentence him to 3 years of community supervision. It's very widely speculated that Ariel manipulated these girls into making up the story and testifying to it. And I would never want to question a victim's story. But I also think that it's only fair to say that it's most likely one of the two scenarios, given what we know. Either it is the absolute truth and these girls are victims whose mother either didn't believe them or didn't want to believe them, or it was the work of the evil genius Ariel Castro.
Malone told me Castro would beat Figueroa mercilessly, sometimes with barbells, and
she told me that she was locked in that house. He had tinted the windows. She had padlocked the doors. The only time that she was able to come out was for her appointments.
Grimilda would pass away on April 29th, 2012 at just 49 years old due to a brain tumor. So by this point, Ariel Castro was living the bachelor lifestyle, minus a few women that he was seeing, dating, or sleeping with, driving a school bus by day, and playing in a salsa band at night. Michelle Knight. I really, really like Michelle Knight. I just feel horrible for this girl. I really do. Her childhood was anything but normal. Actually, in fact, it was incredibly cruel. And it's so cruel that it's hard to understand why or how she still has such a strong faith in God.
Just have the love in God, and you'll see.
Because if I'm being honest, if I had to live a quarter of her life, there is a very good chance that I would have given up all hope of my God being real. But she never swayed from her beliefs. She took everything dealt to her like a fucking champ, and she came out of this whole ordeal better than she was when she went into it. And listen, not that I don't feel awful for all three of these girls, because they are all victims, horrible, but actually 4 of them really, because the baby is a victim as well. But I would be lying if I didn't say that I feel the worst for Michelle. That girl's life truly makes me want to break down in tears. So Michelle, where do we begin with you, doll? Michelle Knight had an incredibly poor upbringing. She suffered a lot of emotional ABUSC. She was SA'd multiple times by a family member. Her and her family were forced to live in their car for a period of time, and Michelle had to play mommy to her 2 younger twin brothers. She said that when her family did have a home, that it typically didn't have much inside of it, no couch, no stove, etc. And she goes on to say that if she wanted to make a warm meal, she would be forced to cook it on a space heater. FYI, it takes 4 hours for a hot dog to cook on a space heater. Just 14 years old, Michelle was being R-worded constantly by this older family member that was living with them and had been living with them for many years. In fact, there was probably about 12 people living with her at this time. It had all become too much for her one day, and Michelle decided to run away from home. At first, she was sleeping under a park bench. Then she advanced to sleeping in a garbage can with a blanket that she had stolen off of somebody's back porch. Okay, so I know what you're thinking, because at first I was like, what do you mean she's sleeping in a garbage can? Michelle's really little. She's 5'3". So it was really easy for her to crawl inside of a garbage can and basically hide because she's so tiny. Then one day she would begin going to a Baptist church that she would grow to love. The church gave away free lunches to the community every single day. So one day Michelle's there getting her lunch, and one of Michelle's family members spots her, calls her father, and he comes to get her, bring her home, and send her back to school. School life was not much easier for Michelle, though. She would get bullied, she would get made fun of, and she would be shoved into lockers. At some point, an older classmate showed an interest in her, and the two began seeing each other. They were pretty much sleeping together until Michelle got pregnant. Shortly after finding out that she was pregnant, Michelle would get a call from a girl named Cassie, and Cassie would let her know that she was the girlfriend of Eric, who was Michelle's baby daddy. So Michelle let him know that she gotten the phone call, that she knew what was going on, and she broke things off with him very quickly and never told him about the baby, believing that he didn't really have a right to know. Okay. I mean, him cheating on you doesn't necessarily warrant being kept in the dark about having a son walking around this earth, if I'm being honest. He had a right to know. Michelle would end up dropping out of school and giving birth to a little boy that she named Joey. Fast forward a couple years, and Michelle leaves Joey with her mother and her mother's boyfriend so that she could go out and look for a job. While Michelle is job hunting, her mother's boyfriend was hard at work getting drunk. The boyfriend grabbed her son by the leg and fractured his knee. Michelle did the right thing, and she took the baby to the hospital, as she should have. But because of the baby's injuries and because the type of injuries that the baby had, told hospital staff that that somebody had done this, basically. The hospital decided that it would be in the best interest for the baby and the safest thing for the baby to call social services, who stepped in and temporarily took Joey from her care. August 23rd, 2002. 21-year-old Michelle Knight has an appointment with social services at 2:30 p.m. She was supposed to get a ride from her mother. Her mother bailed out on her. Shocker. Michelle's on her way to social services for a hearing to regain custody of her son. She's headed there on foot, and shortly into her walk, she goes into a Family Dollar store to ask for directions. It would just so happen that Ariel Castro was also inside the store at that time, heard Michelle talking to the cashier, and offered to give her a ride to her appointment. Because Michelle was best friends with his daughter, she felt safe accepting the ride. So she gets in the car, which she describes as absolutely filthy, disgusting, just empty food buckets and bags everywhere. On the way there, Ariel tells her that his dog just had puppies, and he asks Michelle if she wants to stop and get a puppy for her son. Knowing how happy this puppy would have made Joey, she agrees, but only after he promises that he can get her a puppy and still get her to her appointment with time to spare. So they pull up, and Ariel tells her to come inside to see the puppies. Once inside, he tells her that the puppies are upstairs. She goes upstairs into the bedroom that they were supposed to be in. Ariel closes the door behind her and tells her that she's not leaving for a very long time. God, I can't. Meanwhile, you know that she's a mom. She's such a mom, because the first words out of her mouth are, I have to get my son. I have to go see my son. He didn't care, obviously. He takes an extension cord. He wraps it around her legs, her arms, and her neck. Then he pleasures himself in front of her and finishes on her clothing. He then goes through her wallet, pulls out the only picture that she has of Joey, and rips it up right in front of her. He then decides to suspend her in the air and leave her there for hours. After he returns back to the house, he grabs Michelle. He brings her down into the basement. He ties her to a pole. He puts a dirty sock in her mouth, and he puts a motorcycle helmet over her head. Then he does the things that he does, that he did repeatedly to them. I don't want to say the words. 8 months later, on April 21st, 2003, it's the eve of Amanda Berry's 17th birthday. Amanda had just finished her shift at Burger King, and she was trying to find a ride home. Being unsuccessful, she decides to begin the short walk home. While walking, Ariel pulls up next to her and offers her a ride. Because Amanda worked at Burger King with Ariel's son at some point, and because she knew his daughter, she felt comfortable accepting the ride. During the drive, Ariel tells Amanda that his daughter is at the house, and he asks if she wants to stop by to see her. So Amanda agrees, still thinking nothing of the situation, basically thinking like, oh, it'd be really nice to see her. But it would be another 10 years before she left. Very shortly after Amanda went missing, her family jumped into action and they began scouring the streets looking for her. This would be a very stark contrast to Michelle's family, who never ever looked for her. This would also be something that Ariel loved to throw in Michelle's face repeatedly. The first time that Michelle met Amanda, it was very brief. He told her that Amanda was his brother's girlfriend, probably unaware of the fact that Michelle had not only gone to school with Amanda, had been in class with Amanda, but also saw Amanda and her family on the tiny black and white television that he had given her. But what was more upsetting, though, was the fact that Amanda was given clothes to wear while Michelle was forced to remain naked. It was no secret that Amanda was Ariel Castro's favorite, and he had zero issues making that known. April 28th, 2003, 11 p.m. Ariel Castro calls Amanda's mom from her cell phone to tell her that Amanda is okay, that the two of them are in love, and that they want to be together. When her mother asks to speak to her, Castro hangs up the phone.
What was the mom's response? I don't know.
So tracing calls was still fairly new at this point. So the best that police could do was to trace the phone to a 40-block radius. But that's a huge, huge radius, especially when the person you're looking for is inside a home that has windows that are boarded up and have plexiglass on them. A sting operation was set up, but Castro never called back again. And then after about a month of waiting, police just decided to abort the mission. Gina DeJesus. She was described as enormously kind, shy, sweet, soft-spoken, and as having a great sense of humor. She came from a very close-knit family and had dreams of becoming a lawyer one day. April 2nd, 2004, 2:30 p.m. 14-year-old Gina DeJesus was hanging out with Ariel Castro's daughter Arlene after school had let out for the day. Gina and Arlene were best friends, and the girls' fathers were also very good friends.
Gina's mother, Nancy Ruiz, revealing something else. She has known Ariel Castro for years. They grew up in the same community. And during that near decade without her daughter, when she would run into him, he would ask the mother how she was holding up without her daughter.
You would see him and he would say, "How are you doing?"
Yes.
Like nothing was wrong.
Yes.
That's chilling.
It is.
The two girls stop by a payphone and Gina lends Arlene 50 cents so that she could call her mother and ask her if she could hang out at Gina's house. For whatever reason, Arlene's mother says no, so the girls say goodbye and they walk home in opposite directions. While walking home, Castro pulls up to Gina and asks her if she has seen Arlene. She tells him yes, that they just left each other, and Castro asks Gina to help him find her. Because this was her best friend's father, Gina agrees without giving it a second thought, and she gets into his truck. Castro brings Gina to the house to check for Arlene. While there, Castro tries to give her a kiss, to which she pulls back and says, like, "What are you, fucking crazy? What are you doing?" So Castro agrees to take Gina home, but tells her that they have to go through the basement. He leads her down the steps, but once they hit the basement, Gina very quickly realizes that she would not be exiting that home. In fact, she would not be exiting that home for another 9 years. He instead begins to chain Gina up to the same pole in the basement that once held Michelle and Amanda hostage. By this point, both girls had graduated to separate bedrooms upstairs where they were chained to dirty mattresses and forced to go to the bathroom in a nasty bucket that was rarely emptied.
Decided to call my mom and ask her, and so she gave me 50 cents to call my mom, and so my mom said no, that I can't go over her house. And so I told her I couldn't, and she said, "Well, okay, I'll talk to you later," and she just walked.
Normally, Gina would have taken the bus, but after she gave Arlene 50 cents for the payphone, she didn't have enough money left for bus fare. So she headed home on foot.
By that evening, Gina's family would launch a search for her. You now had both Amanda and Gina's families out looking for them, but there was still no sign of Michelle's family. Something that Ariel Castro loved to throw in her face over and over and over again. It would be another 9 years of hell before Gina would see freedom or the light of day. As a whole, the girls were treated awful. They were only allowed to bathe once a week if they were lucky, and most of the time it had to be done with Castro, especially for Amanda Berry. They were R-worded repeatedly, and Castro would often throw money at them after he was done, because that way he saw it as them somehow consenting to the act because they had gotten paid. That's not how that works, so there's that. And he would typically blast Salt's music during this so that if the girls did scream, the music would drown out their screams. They were fed very little, and when they were fed, it was typically fast food. There were a lot of times that Michelle especially would be made to starve, sometimes for up to a week. He just really hated her for some reason. She would later say in interviews that Gina would slip her some food even though Castro would forbid her to do so. One day before Amanda even arrived at the house, Castro was feeling generous and he brought Michelle home a little puppy that she named Lobo. A few months into owning the puppy, Castro came home drunk one night and he began doing what he did to Michelle. And the dog was trying to protect her. I don't want to go into any sort of details about the puppy, so I will just say that he passed doing what dogs do, which is protecting their owners, and let's just leave it at that because it's horrible. After 3 months in captivity, Castro came into Michelle's room, tossed her a dirty shirt and pants, and told her to get dressed. He brought her downstairs where he gave her a dirty, nappy wig and a pair of big sunglasses to wear. He took her into the backyard and told her to hold some wood for him that he needed to cut, reminding her the whole time that he had a loaded gun in his back pocket and that it would be in her very best interest to not try anything. This would be the first time Michelle had seen the outside since the day that she was taken. After they were done, he brought Michelle back up to the blue room. That's where she stayed, in the blue room. He made her take off the clothes he had given her, made her hand over all of her clothes, and then chained her to the bed completely naked. Basically telling her, you're only here for one reason anyway. He would leave her like that all through the winter, while also refusing to heat the room that she was in. She became so cold that her lips turned blue, her teeth were chattering, and you can see her breath. He left her like this for November, December, and January. Finally, in February, after begging, he agreed to give her a tiny sheet to use as a blanket. 8 months into her captivity, he allowed Michelle to shower for the very first time. He brought her downstairs to the bathroom. It was also the first time that she used a real toilet since the day that she was taken. Her hair had so much sperm that it was sticking up, and she had to cut it in order to get it clean. That, and he only handed her a tiny drop of soap and told her to hurry up. While in the shower, Michelle washed off 8 months of dirt, urine, and blood off of her body. After she was done, he brought her into his bedroom and he did what he does to her. I don't want to keep saying it. Plus, I really hate that word, and I'm sure you guys are absolutely picking up what I'm putting down at this point. One of the consequences for Castro doing what he does to Michelle is that it could result in a pregnancy. In fact, it resulted in 5 pregnancies for her, and Castro made sure that the baby never went to term. The first time he discovered that she was pregnant, he hit her in the stomach as hard as he could with a barbell, and then it would just get increasingly worse every single time. He would starve her, he would push her down flights of stairs, he would jump on her stomach, and he did this to get rid of another 4 more babies. But not before blaming her for getting pregnant as if it was her fault, which is fucking delusional. And she would later share that because of him, she's actually no longer able to get pregnant. During captivity, Amanda Berry also fell pregnant with Castro's baby, except unlike Michelle, she was able to keep her baby. December 24th, 2006, Amanda goes into labor. Castro storms into the room that Michelle and Gina shared and orders Michelle to get up and help Amanda deliver the baby, warning her that if anything happened to the baby, that he was going to unalive her, as if she would have any sort of control over something like that. He sticks her in a pool, an empty pool, which, why didn't he put water in it, right? That's what I was thinking. Like, why wasn't there water in it? But whatever. He sticks her in an empty pool so that she doesn't dirty anything, I guess. Meanwhile, the whole place was a disgusting, filthy mess. There were rats running around. But whatever. Finally, Amanda would give birth to a beautiful little girl that she would name Jocelyn. And when the baby was born, she actually was not breathing and she was blue. Oddly enough, Michelle would be the person that not only delivered that baby, but saved that baby's life. It was Michelle doing chest compressions on the baby that finally made her start breathing. And I wonder if either of them ever thanked her for saving that baby's life. March 6, 2006, the news reported that Amanda's mother had passed away from heart failure, or more commonly known, in my opinion, a broken heart. In 2004, Luana went on the Montel Williams show and she asked the psychic if her daughter was still alive, to which the psychic told her that she was not.
Almost 9 years ago, Amanda Berry's mom went on the Montel Williams show where resident psychic Sylvia Brown spoke of Amanda.
I don't think I'll ever see her again. Yeah, in heaven on the other side.
The WMMS morning show in Cleveland reenacted the transcript. The host read the part of the psychic.
I hate this when they're in water. She's not alive, honey.
Not alive? Then who's this?
I've been kidnapped and I've been missing for 10 years and I'm here. I'm free now.
Amanda's mom is the one no longer alive. She came home from the psychic's reading telling the Cleveland Plain dealer she was devastated.
Looks like you got that one wrong, honey. Maybe don't say anything. Maybe don't give any kind of confirmation like that. I mean, I'm sure she very much assumed that Amanda was gone because most people did. But when you're dealing with the life of someone's missing baby, maybe just tell her that you can't say for sure as opposed to saying that she's gone. Although she did get the description of Castro right, which a lot of her supporters point out.
The radio host read the psychic's words describing the man who took Amanda.
Is this sort of Cuban looking, short, kind of stocky build, heavy set.
Turns out the suspect is Latino with the last name Castro.
And I get that. I just really wish you never told a mother that her little baby was gone. Especially because she wasn't. And that's just going into territory that no psychic should ever venture into. Just don't do that. The only light in that house of horrors was little Jocelyn. She brought joy to each and every one of them, and she's probably exactly what those three girls desperately needed. She even had Castro wrapped around her little finger, and it would be Jocelyn's adorable little face that would put into place all the events that took place 6 years after she came into the world. Amanda was, I guess by all accounts, a really amazing mom. I have to give that to her. She would get Jocelyn dressed in the morning. She would pretend to walk her to school. Then she would bring her into the bedroom that she had made part of the bedroom into like a makeshift classroom. And when they got into the makeshift classroom, she would switch from mommy to teacher. And then she would teach her basic skills, really, I suppose. So it was really cute. And Castro was smitten with Jocelyn also. So much so that he would take her out all of the time and he would show her off to everyone. Some people he told that she was his girlfriend's daughter.
About 2 months ago, he picked me up. We spent the afternoon together. I just had some service on my car. And he showed me a picture that was in his cell phone randomly. And he said, "Look at this cute little girl." It was a face shot. And I said, "She's cute. Who is that?" You know, and he said, "This is my girlfriend's child." And I said, "Dad, that girl looks like Emily. Emily's my younger sister." And he said, "No, that's not my child. That's my girlfriend's child by somebody else."
While he'd tell other people that she was his granddaughter. Mustard incident. Michelle is deathly allergic to mustard. She actually realized this when she was still a really little child and she had eaten deviled eggs. So, remember when I told you that when they were given food, it was usually fast food? Okay, so I'm sure you guys all know that McDonald's burgers have mustard on them. And when he would bring her burgers with mustard on it, she wouldn't eat them. So this would, of course, tip Castro off to this information. And a person like Ariel Castro should have never been privy to this type of information. Fast forward to Jocelyn being around 5 years old. Castro takes her to a carnival and they come home with hot dogs that are smothered in mustard. When she tells him that she can't eat the hot dog, he tells her that if she doesn't eat it, that she's not going to get anything else. Mind you, she has not eaten in days, so she was starving. She wipes off as much of the mustard that she possibly could with her shirt, and then she eats the hot dog. The next morning, her face puffs up to twice its size. Her whole body turns red, and she can't feel her throat or her tongue. By day 2, her face is huge, and she's coughing up mucus. So Castro brings her a bottle of cough medicine and tells her to drink it. It helped with the cough, but it obviously did nothing for the allergic reaction. This went on for days, okay? Gina had to give her water through a straw because she couldn't open her mouth wide enough to drink from a cup. By day 5, Michelle was in so much pain, still dealing with symptoms from the mustard, and pretty much she's ready to die. She has had enough, she is done, and she wants to pass on. She actually credits Gina as being the person that kept her alive through this whole ordeal, and basically Gina telling her, no, you cannot die. You have a son and your son needs you. It would take another 5 days for her swelling to go down, meaning Michelle Knight stayed like this for 10 whole days. 10 fucking days. I don't think I could survive that. I'm going to be completely honest. I don't think I would survive it. Absolutely not. I don't know that I could survive something like that. This is what I mean. Something about Michelle, my heart completely breaks for this girl. It just really completely breaks for her. It really, really does. She also has issues with her eyesight from not only being hit multiple times in her head, but from years and years and years of living in complete darkness. She has really bad problems with her eyesight now. May 6, 2013. Ariel Castro leaves to go to his mom's house. He had been giving the girls like a little more freedom at this point because Jocelyn had been getting older and she was beginning to question why her mommy and her aunts had chains on them.
Castro also talked about the day the women escaped. As his daughter, who was born in the house, grew older, she begged him to stop locking all the doors. And on that day in May, he left a bedroom door open.
Jocelyn was free to roam around the house however she wanted. So on this day, the girls were not chained up. At this point, I think he felt as though he had made it very abundantly clear to them that if they tried to leave, that he would kill them. Not to mention that he tested them multiple times throughout the years, just like he did to his wife, where he would pretend to leave, he would hide, and he would wait to see if they tried to escape. A little while after Castro leaves, Jocelyn goes running into Amanda's room to tell her that Daddy's gone. So it's at this point that Amanda realizes that her door is not locked because Castro also had alarms on the doors and he had doors that locked from the outside. So Jocelyn's telling her Daddy's gone. His truck is gone. She looked all around. He's not there. She looked around outside. He's not there. And Amanda's door is not locked. So, oh my God, was it a mistake? Probably. I think maybe he accidentally forgot to lock the door. I don't know. Who cares? She runs downstairs. She tries to open a screen door, but she can't get it open. She literally can just push it enough to get her one arm out, and she's waving her arm and she's screaming for help. And it's one of Castro's neighbors that sees her, helps her break the door open, and takes her and Jocelyn across the street to call 911.
I have a call taker on the phone with a female who says her name is Amanda Berry and that she had been kidnapped 10 years ago. She's at this location now. So code 1.
2-3, you got a boss coming? This might be for real.
Her screaming. I'm eating my McDonald's. I come outside. I see this girl going nuts, trying to get out of her house. So I go on the porch. I go on the porch, and she says, "Help me get out. I've been in here a long time." So I figured it's a domestic dispute. So I open the door, and we can't get in that way because how the door is, it's so much that a body can't fit through, only your hand. So we kick the bottom, and she comes out with the little girl, and she says, "Call 911. My name is Amanda Berry." When she told me, it didn't register until I got to call 911, and I'm like, I'm calling the 911 for Amanda Berry? I thought this girl was dead. You know what I mean? And she got on the phone, and she said, "Yes, this is me." The girl Amanda told the police, "I ain't just the only ones. It's some more girls up in that house." So they went up there, 30, 40 deep, and when they came out, was just astonishing. Right. I barbecue with this dude. We eat ribs and whatnot, and listen to salsa music. You see where I'm coming from?
Yeah. And you had no indication that there was anything going on?
Bro, not a clue that girl was in that house, or anybody else was in there against their will, because how he is he just comes out to his backyard, plays with the dogs, tinker with his cars and motorcycles, goes back in the house. So he's somebody that you look away because he's not doing nothing but the average stuff. You see what I'm saying? Yeah. There's nothing exciting about him. Well, until the day.
The cops come. Amanda tells them there's 2 more girls inside. They go inside. They rescue Michelle Knight and they rescue Gina DeJesus.
It was very quiet until you hear the pitter-patter steps. Then you're, what's going on?
But Michelle does peer out of a bedroom into the darkness of the upstairs hall.
Shine the light so she could see, and that's, I think, when she came running out.
She kind of caught me off guard. She jumped on me, had her arms around my neck, her feet wrapped around my waist. I couldn't holster my gun. I'm trying to hold her, and she's just yelling in my face, "You saved us, you saved us." I'm Michelle Knight. I've been here for 10 years or 12 years. Their person walked out of the bedroom, and I immediately knew who it was, and I just asked her name, and she said Georgina DeJesus. We needed to broadcast to let everybody, they're safe, but I had to wait a minute, because if I would have immediately started talking into the mic, I would have broke down.
Adam 23 radio. We found them. We found them.
Michelle, Gina.
And it's an incredibly emotional time for everybody, for the girls, for the cops, for the public, for everybody, okay? It was an incredibly emotional event. All 3 girls and Jocelyn are taken to the hospital. When Michelle was rescued, she only weighed 80 pounds, and doctors told her that she was dying from a bacterial infection and that she only had days to live. So basically, if this did not play out the way that it did, this would be a very different story, because Michelle would not be here. Michelle Knight is actually the only person that shows up to Castro's hearing, and which, to each their own. I don't blame them for that. I'm sure the other ones wanted to put it as far behind them as they could, but Michelle did show up and she spoke, and kudos to her.
Only victim to appear, Michelle Knight, who said she spent, quote, 11 years in hell.
Days never got shorter. Days turns into nights. Nights turns into days. Years turn into eternity.
Ariel Castro is sentenced to life in prison plus 1,000 years. But, true to form, for people like this, he is a punk and a pussy, and he would end up unaliving himself after just 1 month into his prison sentence. So he could not survive 1 month, and these girls survived 11, 10, and 9 years, and he couldn't make it 1 fucking month. If that doesn't tell you everything you need to know about him, okay?
When was the last time you spoke to your father?
It was late last month.
And had you been in regular contact with him, and had you had any kind of inkling at all that something like this could be going on inside his home?
No, I had no idea. Me and my father were never really that close. Every time we would talk, it would just be short conversations and just a hello, how are you doing, and let me know if you need anything, and that was it every time.
And did you ever meet the little girl, Jocelyn?
No, I've never met her before.
In terms of violence in the home, did you ever witness that?
Oh, no, never, never.
And what would you like to say to Gina, her family, and the other women now?
I would like to say I'm absolutely so sorry. I really want to see you, Gina, and I want you to meet my kids. I'm so sorry for everything.
Ariel Castro's daughter, Angie, spoke to the media after everything had came out.
Weird things that I've noticed over the years, like about, how he kept his house locked down so tight, certain areas, and, how if we'd be out at my grandma's having dinner, he would disappear for an hour or so and then come back, and there would be no explanation where he went. Like, everything's making sense now. It's all adding up.
Your family is attached to this stigma. What is the message that you want to tell people that they might not understand?
That my father's actions are not a reflection of everyone in the family. They're definitely not a reflection of myself or my children. We don't have Munster in our blood.
You never want to talk to your dad again?
No. I have no problem cutting him out of my life. I have no problem doing that. I never want to see him again.
Along with Castro's two brothers who were initially arrested alongside Ariel, but then they were released very shortly after that.
No, the radio was playing all the time.
He would play music all the time.
Yeah. If not the radio, the TV. Something had to be on at all time in the kitchen. So I couldn't hear nothing else but the radio or the TV.
Didn't any of that strike you as unusual or strange?
No, because Ariel was, to me, he was a strange dude. I mean, it didn't fade me none. And another thing, I seen Ariel with a little girl at McDonald's. And I asked him, who's that? And he said, this is a girlfriend of mine.
The daughter belonged to a girlfriend of his?
Yes. And then I said, well, where's she at? She's at Metro. She's taking care of something at Metro. Okay, so I left it at that, and I left. Because he's with this little girl, and then they're going to have breakfast. Then, about 3 weeks later, I seen his truck at Burger King, and then again, he's with this little girl. And then I questioned him, where's the mother? Oh, she had to do something. So I just let it go.
You believed him?
I believed it. But I had no idea that that little girl was his or Amanda's.
Amanda Berry, the Cleveland house has been torn down as it should.
For the love of the missing people! Yeah!
But there is still another love.
She said she's going to let her son decide whether or not he wants to see her. But is she in touch at all with the adoptive parents at this point?
You know, they made it clear to her that they didn't really want to have a relationship, which is understandable. I mean, adoptive families and adopted children, there's a sensitive relationship there. However, the adoptive parents have somewhat kept in touch with Michelle, sending her pictures and keeping her posted on more important happenings in her son's life.
Yeah, Michelle is amazing, and it's so nice to see her living her best life at this point.
And her daughter Jocelyn seem to be doing great. They seem to be thriving. They seem to be really happy, and they're also just trying to put the past as far behind them as possible.
Daughter Jocelyn just turned 13 on Christmas Day.
What was it like for you, Amanda, when you looked in her eyes for the first time?
It was amazing because she was so quiet and she was just the most beautiful thing.
Do you just wrap your mind around it and make it work?
This is his kid. You know, how do I feel about that? And she resembled him a lot. And I would look at her and I just felt like, she's mine. She's mine.
Lastly, even though this isn't directly linked to the case, it is still very much relevant in my opinion. Ariel Castro's daughter, Emily Castro, who was friends with Amanda Berry, she spoke out in May of 2013. She had, at this point, she had been in an Indiana prison since 2007 for trying to unalive her 11-month baby by slashing the baby's throat. I know. She has claimed to be mentally ill when the incident took place. Could that be true? I mean, look who her father is. I just hope if that's the case that she's getting the help that she needs. Thankfully, the baby is okay. The baby has survived. And in truth, I hope they don't cross paths again. I just really do. Because I think it would be a hard stretch to say that that baby does not have scars left. So let's just let that baby move on with her life. I don't think that you guys need to see each other. That's just my personal opinion. I'm just saying. But what the fuck? All right, guys, if you are still here, thank you. I love you and I appreciate you so very much. I really hope you guys like this one because I was excited about this one. So I really hope that you guys like this one. Please leave me your thoughts in the comments below. Please like, subscribe, comment if you haven't yet and you feel so inclined to because it really helps me out. I really appreciate it. If you have any suggestions, please send them over to me because I'm always looking for new suggestions for you guys. And until next time, stay safe out there.